Hey Wargamers, today we're doing another Patreon patron army list review, getting into Thank You Patrons Week here on the channel. It also happens to be Thanksgiving here in the States. So yeah, we're going to go over a list that one of my patrons has sent in for a review. If you're not familiar with how this format works, we're here in Battlescribe, just going over an original list that my patron has sent to me. I'll talk about the things that I think work well, things that I think do not work as well, and then I will make a revised list and post both the original and revised list for you to review, so you can kind of get an idea of what changed, what stayed the same, that sort of thing. All right, so today we are dealing with a 2-detachment list. The first detachment is Tausep, the second is Borkan, and the idea here is that this is this patron's give it all he's got list in terms of being the most competitively minded type of list that he can muster. And so we are going to try to take that competitiveness up to 11 while still maintaining the overall feel of the list. That's important, is that we want to keep it kind of the same flavor of list and not end up with some cookie cutter list at the end. So, all right. Let's get into it. Basically, the Tau detachment starts off with a Fireblade, great choice, and an Ethereal, who is the Warlord on a hover drone. He has an Honor Blade and the Through Unity Devastation Warlord trait. A great pair to start off the detachment with. Having Through Unity Devastation is fantastic, and having him on a hover drone is good because we're going to need him to keep up with some drones later on the list here. So he really does need that maneuverability. In troops, we have three units of Fire Warriors. Each one of them is armed with pulse rifles, and then they have a Shazui. One of those units has a Shazui with a marker light. The elite section here has 2 Fire Sight Marksmen. Fantastic choice. These are going to be a staple unit for your marker lights. And then the Pure Tide Engram Neurochip is going to be on one of them. I think that's something that a lot of people overlook, is that Pure Tide Engram Neurochips or other signature systems can be given to any Tau character with a few restrictions, like the weapons cannot be given to a Fire Sight Marksman. It has to go to a commander. So you couldn't put like a Supernova Launcher on a marksman, but you certainly can put a Pure Tide Engram Neurochip on him. So that is a great relic. It's not quite as good as it used to be with the changes in the big FAQ, but nonetheless, it is a way to recoup a few command points, and it gives you that free reroll, which is essentially a free command point in its own right. So that is a nice little bit there. Yes, and then we have 2 Riptides. So these Riptides here are essentially stock the way that I would run them. So 2 Smart Missile Systems and a Heavy Burst Cannon. They have a Target Lock Advanced Targeting System as well. I love it. I think it's great. Having 2 Riptides in an army is going to do a lot of heavy lifting for you. All right, in Fast Attack, in order to support those Riptides, we have 7 Shield Drones. Now, this is a little bit of a concern because of their leadership. We don't like to have very large units, but with the Ethereal, that's less of a concern. So as long as they stay within range of the Ethereal, the shield drone should be fine. And with Riptides, that's a little bit more manageable because they're not going to be flying all over the board. They'll be doing some movement, but not a tremendous amount. So this works out well. The second detachment, again, is a Borkan detachment, so we're getting that extra range on our rapid-fire weapons here. And then, yes, so we have a commander in Cold Start. He has 3 burst cannons and then the plasma accelerator rifle, which is the special plasma rifle. So we need to use emergency dispensation for this, so that it's going to cost us 1 CP, kind of knocking out the benefit of that Pure Tide Engram Neurochip. So we're breaking even just based on that 1 free reroll that Neurochip gave us. But still, it's going to hopefully recover something later on as well. All right, so we have 3 burst cans and then the special plasma rifle. I think this is an interesting loadout. I've always been a fan of the plasma rifle in theory. I think it has a fair bit of nostalgia for it. I've always liked plasma rifles because when I started playing Tau, right when they were first introduced, plasma rifle missile pod was the way to go, and I still like plasma rifles, and I have quite a large number of them. So plasma rifles are fun, and they do have a very specialized role in the Army. The burst cannons I can see working alongside the plasma accelerator rifle because of the plasma accelerator rifle's extended range, but we're still only getting strength 5 shots off of a commander, and that that hurts me on the inside a little bit, just because we're not maximizing the output from that commander. Yes, we do get a nice number of shots, and yes, they are hitting on 2s, which is a great reliable source, but I would still like to see something a little bit more unique on him. Not to say that burst cans are bad. It just I have an emotional response to it, just because I love plasma rifles, and I love all the other big guns too, and burst cannons feel like a little bit of a concession. So let's see if we can really make this commander shine a little bit more in the revision. In fast attack, we have 2 units of 8 tactical drones. Those are shield drones again, and we need those for the other 2 fast attack choices here, which are YVahra. YVahra definitely need these shield drones to come in with them, and notably because the detachment is Vorcan, they're not going to be able to cross-pollinate or synergize with drones from the Tau sept. So you need to have the drones in the same sept as the target unit. So we need to have specialized drones here just for this detachment, and that's good that we do have them. Having 8 in a unit, though, is risky because unlike the Riptide shield drones, these shield drones are going to be dropping in probably alongside the YVahras, far up the field and not in your fire lines. So that means that they are much more likely to suffer penalties in the morale phase, and that's going to be problematic. We're probably not going to actually get 8 shield drones worth of savior protocols because we're going to lose some to leadership. Now, there's some solutions to that we'll talk about in the revised list, but really it probably means just skimming a few off the top here to save a little bit of leadership tests. Now, that's kind of weird logic, right? The idea is take fewer drones so you don't lose as many. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of not that we're going to be losing those drones, it's that we could use those points elsewhere. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to tweak these a little bit to make them a little bit more compatible with their battlefield role, as they are going to be supporting the YVahras that are not going to be around your ethereal most likely. So we'll tweak them a little bit, and then the YVahras have target lock and velocity tracker with their standard guns. So I think this works out well. The big issue, though, with YVahras is that they are so expensive, and when we take 2 of them, this is almost 840 points, almost 834 points. So that's a big part of your army. That's almost half your army, and in 2 models, and they are not invincible. The shield drones do help. They help a lot, and that's why we're bringing them. But they can still get taken out, and that's kind of the biggest weakness of this list, I think, is that we are kind of all in on the big suits. And if you go up against a list that's tuned to take out knights, it will definitely be able to take out your Riptides and YVahras. So that means that once one of those suits goes down, you're really going to feel it. And that's one of the biggest risks with running YVahras, is that you're depending on them to do a lot, and if you don't get first turn or something like that, it's going to really hurt. These guys are probably going to be jumping up in the sky in turn 1 and then deep striking turn 2, because that's one of the better strategies to use with YVahra, especially if they're Vorcan. They're going to be able to lay down nice and close. They're going to be able to lay down next to a target unit and still be able to use their flamers, and that's really important. So being able to do that, we're probably going to be jumping them up, and that's why we need the tactical drones to not just foot slog it across the board. We need them to be able to deep strike down and support that unit. But overall, a big risk here, I think, that it can work. I've run double YVahra lists before, and they have worked. But I've also run double YVahra lists before and have them totally not work. So it's very matchup dependent. All right, so let's look at the revised list. Okay, here is the revised list. Much of it is the same because I think there are a lot of things about that list that work out very well. Just some few tweaks here. So again, starting off with the Tau detachment, we have the Fireblade, the Ethereal. Those guys are the same. We have 3 units of strike teams. Those guys are the same as well, but we've added a 4th unit of Fire Warriors. That also has a marker light. So we're adding additional marker light source. We have our 2 Firesight Marksmen and our 2 Riptides. Those are all exactly the same as they were before, including the Pure Tide Engram Neuro Chip. For fast attack here, we have 8 shield drones because we can rely on having them close by that Ethereal. And we have 2 Riptides that are not going to be a low priority target for your enemy. They're probably going to want to focus on those YVahras first, but especially in turn 1, if they're up in the sky, those Riptides are going to be looking pretty juicy for your opponent. So we want to make sure that those drones are there to support those Riptides, and the Ethereal is going to be helping them do that. Then moving into the Borkan detachment, we have that commander again. He still has that plasma accelerator rifle because I love the flavor of that. I think that's going to be super cool. It's going to also work very nicely at taking out characters, for example. The Cold Star is phenomenally good at positioning, and so he can kind of snipe out characters. So having the plasma accelerator rifle on there helps out a lot. And then actually we just double down on the plasma rifles. They do get that extended range because their Borkan is not quite as far as the plasma accelerator rifle, but they're still getting extended range. And I think this gives us a little bit more of a defined role for him that isn't also being taken over by a different unit. So having the plasma rifles there instead of the burst cannons, I think works out in the role that he can play, and kind of just all kind of synergizes together or goes in the same direction. Whereas having the burst cannons on there doesn't quite do the same thing for me in my brain. So yeah. And that's actually one of the things I'd really like to hear the community's feedback on is what you think about this change. Of course, I know the default response is going to be take 4 fusion blasters or take 3 fusion blasters and the supernova launcher. But no, we want to use this plasma accelerator rifle. We want to have a little bit more of a flavorful commander here. So with that in mind, what would you guys change, or what would you do? Fast attack, we have 2 units of 5 shield drones, so we skimmed those down a little bit just to make them a little bit more robust to leadership. No point in putting drones in there if we're not actually going to be able to use them because they're going to run away for leadership. So 5-man units are fine. And then we have those 2 YVahra because that's kind of the backbone of the list. So we have 2 YVahra, 2 Riptides, a bunch of drones, and a couple commanders and a few fire warriors, but that's the list. I think it'll work out well. It's going to struggle on objective capturing. I think this is a list that is tuned to destroy, not to capture. So that's going to be the strategy overall, is to shoot people off of objectives or just wipe the table. You're not going to be able to hold a lot of objectives very easily, especially if you're going against an opponent that has a lot of troops. The YVahra can do a lot of work for that, but they still are going to be difficult to dislodge in some cases. So I think the objectives are going to be challenging here, but the firepower is remarkable. So sometimes superior firepower is better than having a lot of bodies, and this might be one of those cases. I don't think it's going to have a problem with knights. I don't think it's going to have a problem with armor. I think it's really just those troops that might be problematic, depending on what and where they are on the board. So yeah, I think that's it. I think this list will have some legs on it. I'd love to hear how it turns out. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Of course, both of these lists are linked over on the Invasive Wargaming Facebook page, so you can check out the full list there. And as always, happy wargaming. Hey everyone, this video was made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our community over there. Special thanks to Errant Fox, Max Harrison, No Excuses Panda, Jared Egler, Nick Steele, Tau Oswald, Brian Mann, Jake Johnson, Scott J. Smith, Stephen Cohen, Eric Jackson, Andy M. Young, Benjamin, Giovanni DiMaggio, Julian Peck, Peter Benjamin Parker, RP, Timothy K. Piney, and YVahra Penguin.